Hi, I'm Matthew Diltz, the lead developer of Tor Eternum. Today I'm going to be doing a Q&A from the marketing team, and I'm going to be answering to you guys some of their questions, and hopefully it'll be some pretty exciting content. The first question I had was, what inspired Tor Eternum? And the simplest answer I can give is a combination of frustration with AAA games of just being really freaking easy. Stuff like Path of Exile, great game, love it. Just kind of easy, grind through it. Not really much challenge. Most of the bosses are really one-dimensional. The mechanics are pretty straightforward. You just kind of, make your build and blast everything on and off the screen. Diablo, kind of same thing. And then the other frustration is there's tons of great indie games, but a lot of them are single player. And so that's kind of a bummer. I like to play with my friends. I like to play co-op games. So I really wanted to make a co-op game that was procedural, co-op, had bosses with actually exciting mechanics that you had to kind of think about maybe a little bit and really challenge yourself. Yeah, just a co-op game with cool RPG stuff, and that's kind of what I wanted to make. So I made it. It's definitely a case of nobody has made the game that I wanted to play, so I made the game that I wanted to play. It's been an interesting journey. It's really hard to make games. I just want to keep adding to it, I think. Right now, Tor Eternum is in a place where I'm pretty happy with it, but I'd just like to see more, and I'd like to add more to it. I'd like for it to become the best 2D co-op action RPG, roguelike, roguelite, buzzword ever. But we'll see how far we can get with that. It's been an interesting journey so far. The second question in the Q&A was, what's been the most challenging part of development so far? I would say the single hardest part of development is just staying focused, staying inspired, getting to work every day, working hard every day. When you're a solo developer, it's very easy to get distracted. My dog's right there. I want to go pet my dog, but instead I'm going to work on Tor Eternum and get more stuff out the door. But I mean, more seriously, some of the more challenging aspects of development. Netcode is really annoying. Don't ever make a multiplayer game. Just don't do it. If you're a solo developer, unless you're a really good programmer, don't try to make your game multiplayer. I mean, maybe if you're working with Unity, I've heard some of the Unity multiplayer stuff's gotten a little bit better, but man, netcode can be a total pain in the butt. Some other major challenges, working with APIs in general is always a hassle. So you're working with the Steam API, it's not very well documented. You're trying to figure out how it's working. You spend 3 weeks building some piece of code that you're basing it on some assumption of how the Steam API works, and then it doesn't work like you expect, and it's not documented at all, so who knows how it works. And so you just have to kind of try stuff until it works, and you kind of have to try stuff and hope it works. That's the real scary part, is when you're working with an API and it might never work the way you need it to. That's where it kind of gets a little spooky. Thankfully, most of the APIs I've worked with have at least eventually worked, so that's good. Another really challenging part of development is definitely hiring people. It's hard to get good help. I've gone through 7 artists, and every single one of them was a challenge in one way, shape, or form. Most of them because they eventually just ghosted me, which I don't know why. I think I pay them pretty well. I think they just have, there's probably a reason they're freelancing is the only thing I can think of, is they probably have complications in their own life that make it really hard for them to work consistently on a project for any length of time. So yeah, that's been challenging. Okay, question the third. What inspired the art style for Tor Eternum? So the art style for Tor Eternum is a little bit tricky. I'm not an artist, so I hired people to make the art for Tor Eternum. I definitely sent them hey, I kind of want it to look like this, this, or this, but I didn't make an art style for Tor Eternum. The town is by a beautiful illustration by an artist from Germany, who I think her name is Rowena, but she has an alias, and that might just be her alias. The art for the characters is by several different artists who I will struggle with their names because, again, I know them by their internet alias, and I don't want to say their internet aliases. And I'd have to go check their names to know that, which I'm a little bit embarrassed to say. But they've all done a spectacular job. I think a lot of the inspiration was from I want to say Secret of Mana, Zelda, Hammerwatch. I mean, I listed 2D games and I said, make it look like this, except here are the characters that I want, and here are the monsters that I want. And so they all did a great job, and I have no complaints. I think Tor Eternum looks really good, actually. If anything, I probably shouldn't have made the art so high res. But yeah, that's the inspiration for Tor Eternum. Okay, where did the name Tor Eternum come from? So the game was actually unnamed for about 3 years when all the people I contracted to work on it were working on an unnamed title. I really struggled with the name in general. I thought maybe I would just go with something goofy and straightforward, like kill the boss, or dungeon boss kill, or dungeon adventure, or, just something really explanatory, in hopes that, people would see it on Steam and be like, hey, I like boss fighting and dungeons and stuff, and be like, I need to look into this. But I did a little bit of market research, and it seems like a lot of other games in this genre generally have like a cool fantasy name. So, I spent a few months just brainstorming cool fantasy names while I was working on it. Ultimately, I decided I still wanted it to be about what the game is about, which is ascending a tower. Actually, back then, I wasn't sure if I wanted it to be about ascending a tower or delving into a dungeon. So it was either going to be called like Dungeon Delvers, and you'd actually be going, down one floor, down one floor, down one floor. But ultimately, I thought, well, actually, really, it just came down to the name. I came up with Tor Eternum first. And so what Tor Eternum is it's a little bit of an etymological mishmash. Tor kind of sounds like tower, and in Old English, it means large hill, but can kind of maybe mean tower. I'm not sure. I'm not an elemental etymologist, but my understanding based on what I've read is that Tor can kind of maybe mean tower in Old English. And then Eternum sounds like eternity, like eternal tower, like it's a very, very tall tower, like it's an infinite tower. The lore behind the Tor Eternum is that it's an infinitely tall tower, like, ooh, spooky, infinitely tall and complex. And then this allows me to, in terms of game design, kind of do whatever I want. It's a game that's ultimately about slaying bosses and having fun in a tower. And so from a game design perspective, I can kind of have the tower do whatever I want, whatever I need it to. You can have it warp space and time, and floors can go sideways or up or left or right, and none of that really matters. So yeah, that's the inspiration behind the name Tor Eternum, and a little bit of the inspiration behind the lore of the game as well. Fundamentally, the game was first and foremost about being a cool RPG where you slew bosses rather than having a really complex backstory and lore. I kind of did that after the fact, and worked with that as much as I could. Okay, the next question is, what's your RPG class of choice? The thing about me is I've DM'd, I've played a lot of games, I've played a lot of RPGs. I really struggle to pick just one, like really, really, really struggle. I think that's kind of the designer in me. I like to pick games apart, and I like to see what happens in all sorts of different scenarios. And so when I'm playing a game, like single player RPGs, unless they're really hard or really engaging, or if I get to play like lots of different characters, like in a CRPG, I usually get really bored. And when I've tried to play D&D, I've just gotten really bored really quickly, like started bringing my phone and it just dipped out. But I think ultimately, in World of Warcraft right now, I play a restoration shaman, so I like healers. I like classes where you can kind of watch and support everybody, because I'm more interested in the game itself than I am at personally excelling in the game. Yeah, I think the funny thing is like in terms of aesthetic, I really like fighters and big swords, but I also like spells, like fireballs and stuff are cool. But in most RPGs, I think I tend to end up just gravitating towards support, because everybody else wants to be the guy who blasts and they want to show off their DPS numbers, and I generally just kind of don't care. I just want to see what happens and noodle in the game and see what's going on. So I usually end up playing support classes. So that's my favorite RPG class of choice. Okay, question 6. In a perfect world where budgets and time constraints aren't a thing, what would the final build for Tor Eternum look like? It would have 1,000 unique items. It would have 100, well, actually 100 playable classes would kind of be excessive. It would have 20 playable classes. It would have So many exploration mechanics that every time you played the game, you'd see something different. It would have so many boss mechanics that every time you played the game, you'd see something different. It would have an end game that would go on forever, but at the same time, you would still be able to play with your friends without outpacing them somehow. Yeah, I mean, that's the dream. My goals for Tor Eternum are that. I just want a game that has sort of infinite replayability, has RPG mechanics and progression mechanics, while simultaneously not making it impossible to play with your friends. That's a big thing for me. Question 7. If I had to pick only one item in the game, which one would it be? I mean, it would have to be the pocket cat, right? All the other ones are just knives and shit. What has Tor Eternum taught me as a video game developer? Scope and target audience and marketing are all really important. They're much more important than anything that you could possibly dream up as a fun game. Yeah, I don't want to wax on each one of those too long. Number 9. What other developers or games are some of your biggest inspirations in the industry? There's a lot of games that I like, and then there's games that I think that are inspiring. So games that I like, I don't know if they're necessarily inspiring. You know, stuff like World of Warcraft, you know, with a studio of 600 people or whatever, that's not inspiring. It's a great game, but it's not inspiring. So stuff that's inspiring to me is the dudes that have come and made like a game that I've spent 400 hours in, even though it's made by like a guy. That's inspiring. So stuff like RimWorld, Factorio, Terraria, Minecraft, you know, these games are inspiring. These were guys who had a dream of a cool game they wanted to make, and then it just blew up. That's inspiring. That's cool. But yeah, I mean, there's a ton of games that I like. But the list of inspirations and games that I like could go on forever. But yeah. Question 10. What is the best part about the Tor Eternum community? Everyone's been really nice. I think I am a pretty negative person, and I constantly want Tor Eternum to be better than it possibly could be. And I just want more content, and I want more things, and I want to be able to work on it more, and all of these things. And so in some ways, Tor Eternum to me has almost been a little bit of a disappointment. Like, I've put 120 hours in the game, but I want to spend 10,000 hours into the game. And I want it to be fun enough that I can spend 10,000 hours into the game. But everybody's been really nice, I think, despite everything. You know, everybody's played the game, has been really kind and had a lot of nice things to say, whether they play for 5 hours or 10 hours or 5 minutes or 50 hours. Everybody's been really nice. That's the best part of the Tor Eternum community. They're nice to me. I don't care if they're nice to you guys.